Things continue to look really bad for Ubisoft because now we have Ubisoft announcing that they are going to be closing down yet another studio and laying off over 180 people. Now, you guys are probably asking which studio is being laid off, you wonder. Well, it's the Leamington studio in the UK, and apparently it is that studio that worked on video games like the ones that you love so much, which is Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. These three games that were considered to be massive flops, more so Star Wars and Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones and Star Wars Outlaws alone lost them almost $1 billion. So you got to imagine how Avatar Frontiers of Pandora probably didn't do that well either. But Ubisoft overall is closing down this studio, and we're going to talk about it. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, it is just another story in 2025, continuing from 2024, where we are seeing the mainstream gaming industry get hemorrhaged. It is so ridiculous what is happening out there, and it's happening at the fault of all the executives that are pushing this nonsense that the lower level employees are asking for, right? We already know that a lot of developers, whether they're lower level or higher level employees, are woke psychopaths. We know that. We've accepted that, whatever. We have no problem with your own ideology so long as you do not make that the forefront of your video game and preach to people and then try to attack people when they don't buy your game. That's nothing but preaching. And yet here we are where 185 employees are being fired. And I guarantee you, not all of those 185 employees are down with what Ubisoft is doing, and yet they still have to take it on the chin anyway because this company wants to push this nonsense. So let's get into this video, guys. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says Ubisoft is closing its studio in Leamington, UK, and cutting jobs at 3 other locations. Oh, so it's not even just Leamington, UK. That's crazy. The layoffs and the studio closure will reportedly impact 185 employees. The company's next game, Assassin's Creed Shadows, will be released on March 20th of 2025. I honestly can't wait for Shadows. I can't wait for Shadows because I already know how garbage that game is going to be. I already know how buggy that game is going to be. I already know that that game is going to have so many band-aids in it because what they spent the last 4 months doing with Shadows was not polishing the game. That's been very evident over all the gameplay we're seeing between the shills and the actual press release where everybody's gameplay is bugging out. Literally, everybody's gameplay is bugging out. Even the shills gameplay is bugging out. They were attacking NPCs. The NPCs were just standing still doing nothing. The game is absolute trash. It is going to be a buggy mess. Their developers don't know what they're doing because 80% of them are DEI hires. It is an absolute trash heap that everybody's trying to pretend like it's going to be okay. Well, not everybody, the shills anyway. They're going to try to pretend like it's going to be okay because it's another Assassin's Creed game, right? It's a normie game. It's a normie name, Assassin's Creed, so everybody's going to jump on it. But quite frankly, it's going to be one of those games that wakes up a lot of people to hell. What the hell's happening in the gaming industry? Why are video games this bad now? Why are they so buggy? Why are they not polished? Why am I getting such shitty products? Why am I consuming slop? These games are going to wake people up. And just like Veilguard woke people up, Shadows is going to be a game that wakes up a lot of normies too. But anyway, let's talk about the studio. So Ubisoft is shuttering down its studio in Leamington, UK, and cutting jobs at 3 other studios. The Leamington team worked on titles like Call of Duty Infinite Warfare for Activision before being acquired by Ubisoft, and helping develop games like Far Cry 5 and Tom Clancy's The Division. Despite the relative success of those titles, Ubisoft is closing the office for good as part of the larger cost-cutting move. Now, here's the problem, right? So websites like GameRant are never going to tell you the absolute truth, right? Because they're only going to tell you what they want you to know, since that is what's going to push their narrative, right? And they don't want to blame DEI. They don't want to blame the wokeness. They don't want to blame any kind of garbage like that. So they're only going to tell you about titles that they worked on that were relatively successful. And that's why we have screenshots talking to you about the titles that they actually worked on as well, which is Star Wars Outlaws, Skull and Bones, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And the real notable one is Star Wars Outlaws, obviously. That was a game they got absolutely roasted because it was trash, buggy, garbage, girl boss nonsense, absolute terrible story, and overall the gameplay was very bland, and people were roasting it all the way through. But they want to mention only these games because that way it makes it seem like the studio was slightly successful. But let it be known, if the studio was successful, it wouldn't be closing down. So while Ubisoft is one of the most recognizable names in AAA development today, it's faced its fair share of challenges in recent years. The company's stock price dipped after the Star Wars Outlaws release, a game Ubisoft Leamington worked on. So they were honest, thank God, with many blaming the game's lower than expected sales. It also had to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows several times, potentially suggesting increased pressure for the studio's games to meet players' expectations. It seems the hard times are not over yet, with a round of layoffs coming for several Ubisoft subsidiaries. I'm telling you right now, what they're doing is they are trying to consolidate as much as possible. They are trying to shrink themselves size-wise as much as possible, so that way when the eventual purchase happens, it's a lot easier to manage. They don't want to have all of these studios that are going to be useless. I guarantee you Tencent is in their ear telling them, hey, you should close this down, that down. They're looking at their books, realizing what's useless and what's not, and they're definitely in Ubisoft's ear. But all of this is going to result in Ubisoft either being bought out or their IPs being purchased and the company dying. That's all that's going to happen. But at least Game Rant was honest, even though they tried to do it quick, by the way. They really tried to do it quick with this little statement right here. And it says a game Ubisoft Leamington worked on. Yeah, they try to be really fast about it so that you wouldn't pay attention to that part. So in a statement made to gaming news site Eurogamer, Ubisoft announced that it's permanently closing Ubisoft Leamington while cutting staff at Ubisoft Dusseldorf, Ubisoft Stockholm, and Ubisoft Reflections. All told, the layoffs and closure will affect 185 employees between the 4 locations. The news comes not long after the company revealed that it would shut down XDefiant servers on June 3rd of 2025, just over a year after the game's launch. Mark Rubin, the executive producer behind XDefiant, commented on how free-to-play games take a long time to turn a profit, and profit is a big motive behind these recent layoffs too. In a statement, Ubisoft said the move is part of an ongoing effort to prioritize projects and reduce costs. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, they wouldn't be struggling with profit if they were actually giving gamers what they want. The unfortunate truth is that they've been focusing over the last few years on giving gamers anything other than what they want. And they've been riding the coattails of their IPs that were giving gamers what they want back in the day, but now they're not doing that so much. And they're hoping that the name like Assassin's Creed will be able to carry them through, right? They're hoping the name like Star Wars will be able to carry them through. But unfortunately, that just didn't happen. XDefiant had a ton of players that were ready and excited to give it a chance. They had over 20 million players at launch playing that game. There was plenty of people that were very interested in that game, but they dropped the ball. They didn't provide actual good content. They didn't keep people interested enough. They had a bunch of hit detection issues, which is a no-go in any first-person shooter. The last thing you want to deal with in a first-person shooter is hit detection problems. That is going to be a major issue. And that is what ended up making people say, you know what, fuck this, I'm going back to Call of Duty. At least they're consistent, right? At least even though they give you the same shit over and over, at least they never have a problem with their FPS mechanics for the most part. Some people complain about skill-based matchmaking, of course, I get that. But overall, XDefiant had a core problem issue that they didn't want to address. And by the time they did, or even got close to addressing, it didn't matter. Most of their player base had abandoned them completely. So I don't really know what this is going to do for them or how this is going to save Ubisoft. I know they say they're prioritizing projects and reducing costs, but let's be honest here. Ubisoft is not going to last past this year, man. They're going to announce a sell at some point in time. And again, I don't know if they're going to sell the IPs and shutter the company or if they're going to be bought out entirely as a company. But time will tell after Assassin's Creed Shadows releases where exactly Ubisoft stands from there. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it if you could like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.